Yeah, so welcome to Robert Gagne's hierarchy of learning. So there are 8 levels of learning. So, and one of the things that we bring us here is a passion for learning. I think this is one passion that can help us be open-minded. It is one passion that can help us to continuously grow and continuously adapt to different situations. And the world is changing so fast nowadays. And a passion for learning is what helps us to continuously adapt. We are not scared by the changes that is happening because we have a learning mindset. And a person with a learning mindset is able to continuously adapt to the changing world. So within learning, and one thing that brings us closer is the passion for learning. And within learning, it's nice to understand the different types of learning. And certain learnings brings a little bit of change, and there are certain learning that brings major shift in us. And in hierarchy of learning, we are going to see 8 different levels of learning. So in psychology, unlike in school and academics, if you remember something, mug up some portions and write as per the requirement of the exams, right, you will get very good marks. But in psychology, learning is relatively permanent change in behavior, knowledge, skills, or attitude that result from experience. So you need to differentiate between the school type of learning, where you mug up some theories and write an exam, right? And experiencing a change and a relatively permanent change, right? It's not a very short-term change that you experience for a few days. It's a shift either in knowledge or in behavior or in skills or attitude. Okay, so this is a very big differentiator because the way we look at learning is a totally different idea, right? For us, when it comes to us trainers, when we bring change, a relatively permanent change in our participants, that is considered learning. Okay, not just a superfluous understanding of certain concepts. So I'll again repeat, in psychology, learning is relatively permanent change in behavior, knowledge, skills, attitude that result from experience. So when we speak about 8 different levels of learning, we are speaking about 8 different levels of permanent change. So that's why we say learning is transformation. Whereas in academic circle, they may have a different definition. But for us, learning is transformation. So some of you are trainers and you may want to keep this in mind when designing training program and delivering training program. Some of you are very passionate about self-improvement, and this is very important. We are passionate about transforming ourselves. Compared to last year, am I a better person? Compared to last year, am I more knowledgeable? Compared to last year, am I more capable and skilled? Right. So when we want to continuously transform ourselves, it's nice to know what are the different levels of transformations. Okay, what a behavioral change means. That's what this session is going to be about. So training facilitates self-transformation. Yeah. And this is a noble purpose. That's what we aim in a training program. So it's a very noble purpose. We are enabling a person to become a better person. So that's a very, very noble purpose. They say you can give a man a fish a day and you feed him for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, that's a lasting shift that you're bringing in. So when you enable a person to become a better person, that's a very, very noble purpose. It's good for the person. It's good for that person's family. It's good for that person's social circles. It's good for society. It's good for humanity as such. So every person who becomes a slightly better person, a better human being, you are creating a better world. So it's a very noble purpose to be a trainer and facilitate positive change in others. So in order to facilitate positive change in others, it's nice to understand some fundamentals of change, transformation. And Robert Gagne clearly defines 8 different levels of transformation. So this is one of the book, Robert Gagne's. There are two people whom I really respect. One is Robert Gagne, and the other one is Benjamin Bloom, who came up with the Bloom's taxonomy. So these are two classical models. Like when you learn classical music, classical dance, they teach you the foundational elements. So this lays a good foundation for a trainer to understand what change means, what transformation is about. Okay, so he was a pioneer in the science of instruction during World War II, and he worked with Army Air Corps training pilots. So he did a lot of research in perceptual skill, motor skills, etc. How to, because there was very limited time in World War II, there were demand for more pilots, better trained pilots, etc. So what is a skill? What is a capability? What is a mindset? Right? How to shift attitude. So he did a lot in terms of designing training program and the science behind designing training programs. And so these are some of the concepts that he brought in, and they're very useful for us. And they lay kind of a wonderful foundation for us to understand change. So hierarchy of learning. Any questions as of now? Just introducing the topic. Yeah, all good to go?
It starts from school or it starts from today's learning like this?
Yeah, this is about general learning irrespective of age, right? We are continuously changing. And as a child, we develop certain behavior, attitude, and as we continue to grow as a teenager, we experience change, right? And then as an adult, we experience change. Yes, there are certain characteristics that stays for a longer durations, but continuously we are learning and changing, right? So I am not the same Manoj as I was probably when I was a teenager. Right. So sometimes the change happens because we are in part of a culture, we are part of a society, we are part of an organization. And sometimes we consciously drive change. Like we take up self-improvement initiatives and we ourselves want to change. But sometimes you are like, if you go to Singapore, you might pick up certain habits, you might pick up certain, because the culture is like that. If you go to say some other country, some other culture, you might pick up certain habits, certain attitude because you are in that culture. Right. So sometimes the external environment creates change. Sometimes our own effort, conscious effort to bring change happens. Yes, group captain, nice to see you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all too. My this one is like Bloom's taxonomy and Robert Gagne's hierarchy of learning. Which way we can compare? Which came first, by the way?
I have a feeling Robert Gagne came the first way, but I'm not very sure. But both are in the
Learning.
40s and 50s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we compare them both, like what Bloom's taxonomy and hierarchy of learning, is there any
Yeah,
either comparison or correlation?
Yeah, so both are classifications, and both are about shift. Bloom's taxonomy is a little more into design of the program. How do you design? Robert Gagne's is a little bit more on the inside. What happens is within us. But both are about transformation. Both are about shift, and both addresses cognitive, behavioral, all the affective, all the domains. So it's about how human beings change and how we can facilitate change as a trainer. Because if you're a trainer, we need to understand how human beings change.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, Chandrasekhara.
Good morning, Manoj. Actually, we said like, as we experience and our behavior changes, and as you rightly said, what you were in your teen, and now there is a lot of changes. If that be the case, you said it, philosophy, it's like permanent change. Then the change is evolving. How can it be a permanent change, Manoj?
Yeah, of course. It's a long-term shift that happens. Some of the changes stays throughout our lifespan. Some of it could change, but this is to be differentiated from you go and to a Rajinikanth movie, and then you come out of the movie and start walking like Rajinikanth. That's not a permanent change. That's just the impact of environment, right? So I might go to Singapore and I might just pick up the la, what hi la, how are you la, etc. But I may not have that on a permanent basis. But if I stay in Singapore for say 5, 6 years, then probably it become a part of my verbal behavior, right? Uh, yeah, so they go hand in hand. So a shift that happens, so we can say relatively permanent, but it is subject to continuous change, either in the external factors or the internal factors.
Thanks.
Yeah. So here is the model. So I'll take you through all the 8 levels. The first 4 levels are at the behavioral level, and the top 4 levels are at the cognitive level. And we consider the top levels as having far-reaching implications. And especially signal learning, we don't consciously pick up. Although in NLP, we tell you that even that you can take charge of, right? So a lot of things happens at the subconscious level. Whereas the higher you go, a lot of things, you actively think in a certain direction, right? So first I'll start with signal learning. What is the meaning of signal? Anyone?
Anything that
Non-verbal
appeals,
clues. You learn from
Non-verbal
non-verbal
cues.
clues.
Yes.
anything that appeals to any of our senses.
Yes, even better way. Even NLP, we speak about our 5 senses. Okay, there is a stimulus. Yes, Anusha?
For a lack of a better word, stimulus or I'm sorry, a trigger or stimulus. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes in NLP, we use the word cue, C-U-E, right? I'll just use a whiteboard. So there is a trigger. Sometimes we use the word trigger, but trigger generally we use it in negative connotation. We sometimes use the word cue. In psychology, the most common word that we use is stimulus, right? Or sometimes we use the word signal, right? And this signal can be internal or external, but they come in 5 senses. So our 5 senses are, it could be a visual, right? You see something and that's a trigger, or that's a signal, or that's a cue, or you could hear something, right? It's auditory, and that sound is a cue or a stimulus, and or you could sense something, right? Within your body, your muscles become tight, you can sense it, heaviness, or externally, like somebody touches you, etc. Okay, so kinesthetic. And then you have the sense of smell and sense of taste, right? You taste something or you smell something. And so these 5 especially we receive from the external environment. So what happens is an association gets triggered between a stimulus and a way of responding to that. I would use the word, in psychology, we use the word responding, but I'll just say a way of reacting to that, just to say that it is not voluntary. It's not a conscious decision for you to respond, because we use the word respond mostly in the context of consciously responding to something in a healthy way, right? So there's a stimulus and there's a way of you reacting, and they get paired in your neurons. Okay, so a stimulus and a reaction to it, it gets paired. You are not born with that. If you're born with that, we wouldn't call it a signal learning. It's something that you have learned in your day-to-day life. And it's not learned voluntarily or consciously. It just happened that a stimulus and a way of reacting to it gets paired in your mind. That means every time you hear that stimulus, you will react that way. Okay, and that's a relatively permanent shift because every time that stimulus comes, you react that way. Okay, so this is one change that human beings experience. And this is not to be confused with certain way of responding, which is inborn. Right? As a human being, we respond to certain things. Right?
Is it possible to give an example,
Yeah.
Manoj?
So we will see a lot of example in this, but this is something that happens in our brain, and I'll go a little bit more detail into that. What am I sharing? Can you see the PPT?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Usha, can you help me read this?
Yes, sir. Signal learning. A specific stimulus serves as a signal or cue for the learner to respond in a particular way. It involves the association between a stimulus and a specific response, often through repeated pairing. A factory worker hears the factory siren blowing and knows shift time is over and time to go home. The sound of the factory siren signals a change in activity.
Yeah. So this is an example of a factory worker. He's not born to respond that way to a factory siren. Right? And we who don't work in factories also may not respond that this is the end of a shift. But a person who is working in the factory and he continuously gets paired, as soon as he hears the siren, he's like, oh, my shift is over. Right? He's laid down his tools and he says, okay, I can go home now. Right? So it's a behavioral response. I wouldn't say it's a conscious response. It's a natural reaction to a siren. Right? So this is also known as classical conditioning. This happens in the environment through repeated exposure. So we keep, a stimulus keeps coming in our life and we have learned to unconsciously learn to respond in a specific way. Right? So here cat, when you give a high five, by nature, do they give a high five? Are they born to give high five to human beings?
No.
No. Okay, a cat by nature is not, if you give a high five, cat does not naturally give a high five back. Like it does not clap the hands. But the cat being staying at a home is repeatedly trained. Okay, give a high five, and cat kind of learns it. So when it looks at the master's hand coming, the cat also gives a high five, right? So signal learning is involuntary. It's something that happens for the cat. It's a change in behavior. Okay, before that the cat never used to give high five. Now the cat is giving high five. It's a physical reaction to cat's master's physical reaction. Right? Cat may not even understand what's going on. So what happens is this happens at the subconscious mind. You don't choose to do that, but when you are repeatedly exposed to a certain stimulus and certain way of responding, we kind of learn that and it gets paired in our subconscious mind. Another example, and I would like many of you also to give example. A person is frequently called into manager's office only to be criticized. Now, by nature, if you go to an office, like if you take a child, a 1-year-old child to an office, the child will just start playing. Child has no anxiety, no fear of an office, right? But this gentleman who works in a company, his boss calls him to that office space and criticizes him left and right. What is this? Why this work is not happening? Why that work is not happening? How many times I should tell you, blah, 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 right? So what happens is this person starts developing anxiety. So because whenever the boss calls, there is a criticism. And so what is the stimulus? What is the stimulus here?
Was calling him.
Yeah, the boss calling him. That could be a stimulus. But spatially, what could be a stimulus?
Your past experience.
The office
Yeah, that's that cabin, that boss cabin.
cabin. Yeah.
Okay, so our
The-
brain could pick up maybe the boss facial expression or tone, but I'm just assuming that the brain picks up the physical location. In this case, for this person, the brain picks up the physical location, that is boss cabin, right? Even when boss is not there, when this gentleman goes to just pick up some file or something, as soon as he steps into the boss cabin, there is some anxiety. So what is the stimulus?
The cabin.
The
Okay.
cabin. And what is the reaction?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. It gets paired in the brain. And this stays. It's not for 1 or 2 days. Even after 6 months, it's still there. So this is a learning. So learning is generally, we use it for positive connotation, but this is a negative learning. But in psychology, learning is a permanent shift in behavior. It's either positive or negative. Right? So here the person has got an associated between office space and some danger. Right? It's something dangerous. So there's anxiety and there is fear. And the person starts sweating, the heart rate goes up. So every time the person walks into that office, there's a sweating and there is a fear response. So that's the reaction to an office space. Okay, so now I have given 2 examples. Can you, either you can share it by unmuting, or you can share it in the chat box also. Can you share some example?
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a cat and the dining table is very close to kitchen. So I keep her food near the kitchen on the floor. So initially she realized that the moment I sit on the dining table, that is a time to eat, because I have a breakfast morning and sometime. But after a few days, I noticed that whenever I sit here, she will come for the food.
Yeah.
So she thinks if I sit on the dining here, no, on the chair, that is a food time. So always, whenever I sit, even to do some work, she will come and just sit here and start making noise that she want to eat, no matter what time of the day.
Yeah. So you sitting in a specific chair is a stimulus, and the cat's response is, okay, this is food time. So maybe the saliva is being secreted and cat starts behaving in a certain way, right? Oh, food time, maybe the cat is happy. Okay, so this is a learned behavior, because cats are not born to react to a person sitting on a chair. But this is something the cat has learned through experience. And it's not a conscious learning. The cat has just learned it. Yeah. Yes, Anusha? Okay. Group captain?
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So very simple stimulus. I don't know the second part.
You're not audible, Anusha.
Hello. Hello.
Okay, can't hear. Manmeet?
Yes, sir. So when a baby is crying and the mother starts singing its favorite lullaby or something, then the baby starts smiling and laughing probably. So it relates, the baby relates to that lori or lullaby.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yes, group captain. Thank you, Manmeet.
Sir, only the day before we had a meeting in one of these Rotary Udyog Bhavan. Okay, it's in the Pune industrial area. As the meeting was on, there was a loud siren. So immediately, because now the situation is also such, and because from the defense background, you also understand, when you hear a siren, that too, there was kind of wavering siren it was. So immediately I thought, oh, why this siren? My mind went to maybe air raids or something like that. And there were others who said, is it fire alarm? And then Somebody then said, no, this is the alarm for lunch in the factory by the side. So the learning is different to each and everyone as per the training or whatever has gone through.
So this is because of your Air Force background, where siren
Yes,
means there could be a war or there could be some emergency, and you're
exactly.
supposed to put on the uniform and rush to a specific spot, right? That's how we are trained. And so siren could mean that, okay, it could be a war or something. So that Air Force environment has created a lot of such pairing in you, right? So it's a learning that happened. And these are not responding to a siren is not something we read in a book and right. So many of these things are just through repeated experiences we pick up, our subconscious picks up, right? Some of it, yes, we may have consciously learned it, but a lot of this pairing that happens at a subconscious level. Yes, Anusha.
Okay, thank you. Are you able to hear me now? Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a doubt. There is a very normal stimuli, so I'll just describe. When the house bell rings, we have a natural stimuli to go and open the door, right? There's no positive or negative. It's just a very neutral thing. Okay, it's ringing. We go open the door. I guess I've somewhere spoken in the past. This was more than, I don't know, 10, 15 years back, when I had I suffered with 3 months of stalking issue, and the group of people had actually come home and rang the bell, and it was a very horrible day, right? And of course, after that, I changed my house and everything. I noticed that it took me 10 months, right, to get comfortable with the ringing of the bell, right? So, and every time, this is when I changed my house and went to a more secure location where you have a lot of security, I still carried that trauma for 10 months. So every time the bell would ring, my physiology would go through that that response of, okay, it will get reminded of that trauma. And then after some time and after a lot of caution, I'll keep checking who has come and everything, and then only open the door.
Yeah.
Of course, after 10 months, now it's absolutely normal. Now, would that particular our traumas are also considered in the signal response? Is my question.
Yeah, especially trauma sometimes can create very intense feelings, which can ensure that sometimes in one experience itself, you can experience an association, right? So like, for example, a car accident and then getting into a car itself can lead to phobic response. So yes, but it's a very good example here. So doorbell, and you going and opening the door, right? This is an association that most of us have, right? As soon as the doorbell rings, we go and open the door, and this is a pairing, right? What is the stimulus here? Is it auditory or visual, or what is the stimulus? Doorbell?
Auditory.
It's an auditory.
Auditory.
Yeah, it's an auditory stimulus, right? And the response is you going and opening the door. Say, for example, in another case, a person who is going through a lot of financial problems, just hypothetically creating a situation, and a lot of people from banks and lenders are continuously coming home. So what happens is that whenever a doorbell rings, this person gets super scared, right? Becomes very anxious that maybe it's from the bank or it's from lender or someone who was asked to come back and ask for money. I don't have money to pay back, etc. So what happens is, in this particular case, if it happens for a little longer period of time, continuous experiences, the doorbell might get associated with anxiety, right? This might get, every time there's a doorbell, this person is having a jerky reaction. So these are life experiences that shapes a lot of this pairing that happens, right, between a stimulus and a way of reacting to that. Sometimes the way of reacting is a very positive, healthy way. Sometimes it's an unhealthy way. But this association in our head creates our personality.
As you mentioned, Manoj, I had a car accident, and my stimulus is the darkness, as it happened during a night time. So whenever I travel in a car, if I sense that the road is very dark, that palpitation automatically starts happening inside.
So that is a pairing that has happened, darkness and also being in the car or a vehicle. And so these are, I mean, logically, we will not pick up that only accident happens when it is dark or something. But it so happened that the subconscious has picked up that way. And we have so many such pairing inside our head, right? And it creates a certain behavior. And we need to be aware of it. This is not something you have learned in a book or something. These learning happens from life experiences. Okay, and this association is created by subconscious mind. So it's not like darkness means accident, etc. So it happened through life experiences, and most of the cases it happens through repeated life experiences. So we can become aware of it and we can change that. Because these unhealthy reactions, if it is unhealthy, it will continue unless you decide to change or unless the external environment makes you change. Right? Sometimes everyone may not get an external environment such a good opportunity to change. Right? Suppose, for example, group captain who has been in Air Force has a response to siren, but joins a factory. Right? Now, siren means lunchtime, siren means break time, siren means go home time. So because of this new environment, group captain's earlier association that siren means war or something changes. Right? So either the external environment has to create a change in this association, or we can consciously pick up and create a change. So even as a trainer, when we design program, we can ask, okay, he's a manager, what are the triggers? Right? What are the cues or the stimulus where the manager could react in a negative way? Or this person is in customer service. What could be the trigger that this person will lose his cool? Right? And behave with customer in a negative way. Right? So these are things that when we design program, we think, what could be the triggers for negative behaviors? Right? And to work with that so that these pairings can be changed. Okay, so this is signal learning. Transformation of certain negative signal learning is something that we design when we design training programs. We think, okay, this person is in a leadership position or this person is into the purchase department. What could be the cues or stimulus that could bring up negative reactions? And
thank you, Manoj.
Yeah, and what could be a way, especially NLP anchoring is an excellent tool to bring about shift. Right? We can consciously change and create new healthy pairings. Yes, Manmeet.
But I had a doubt. So like when we say, suppose I drive to school, so no matter whatever thoughts are going on, and or if you're talking on the phone or something while driving, so the track, I mean, unconsciously we are taking those turns and we don't even realize, oh, we've reached here. Is this related to the same thing? I mean,
it's an automatic thing. So it's mostly visual. When you see a certain landmark, your mind could be somewhere else, but the reaction is right.
So it's related to the same.
Yeah, it's a visual stimulus, and either you take left or right, and it's a programmed one.
Because at times, like we're thinking something and we realize, oh, we've reached that far. We didn't even realize the entire path.
Absolutely. Yeah. So all the healthy habits also has this signal learnings built into it. All unhealthy learnings also have this signal learning built in. It drives behavior, right? It changes your emotional state. It changes your behavior like a doorbell, right? You rush to open it or you are anxious. So these are reactions that actually is a part of your personality. So this is not to be ignored. Right? Even though a lot of us, we may focus on certain theories, etc., signal learning may not be logical also. So some people, we develop fear, which is very irrational fear, but it has come from experience. And instead of saying why it is irrational, we have to look at as a signal learning and say that, yes, it needs this. This is just a pairing in the brain. It can be changed.
So can we cure it?
Yes. So we, instead of saying curing it, we can transform it.
Transform.
Because the more we try to get rid of something, the more it becomes stronger. So we say it can be replaced with something else. Okay, healthy behavior. Yes, Vinod.
Yeah, Manoj, I had a counselee who had the same thing. Like during COVID, she received a phone call, and it was a very bad news. Somebody very close has expired because of COVID. But afterwards, she developed a kind of a reaction to the any kind of sharp sound, any phone call, or any doorbell hanging, ringing, and all those things. She used to get upset, and it converted into something like she feels that by hearing that, she's unknowingly she's passing urine or something. Get a feeling in the dress, and then she has to go to the toilet and check and everything. Nothing will be there, but still she feels there is something is there, and she take bath, and so it converted into kind of a OCD. And for the past so many years, she was suffering very badly. So this also come to the same category.
So if it is OCD, then there are other neurological aspects.
No, but then this started with this.
Yeah. I'm ruling out OCD, and I'm just looking as there is a stimulus, right? There's some stimulus that came and it means death, right? A lot of people associate that to say death or something, right? There's a specific reaction, and that reaction is pretty unhealthy, right? So what we can do is to train the brain into a different reaction, which is healthy, a different response, right? And mind can be trained. We can change these programs, this pairing. If you have learned something, we can also unlearn and relearn.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not something we are born with. If something is we are born with, then it's like hard coded. We cannot change it. We are human beings. This is how we are. Right?
Yeah, because I also ruled out. I mean, I felt it's not OCD because it was developed somewhere because of particular stimulus. And like I did I tried a bit of CBT in correcting her behavior and making her aware of why it is happening, how it is happening, and observing and all. It gives some result. But finally, I got very good result using EFT, emotional freedom technique. So that has really cured her, and now whenever she get a feeling, she go into a cycle of tapping, and she feels happy. That's what she says. So I know I not cured it, but I given an alternative method to her. I don't know how much it is correct, but then she's benefited.
Yeah. So unless we have some neurological issues or brain issues or something, if you have learned something, we can unlearn it and we can relearn it. Right? Only in some cases where the brain structure itself has some issues or something, like in case of dementia or something, there's a physical issue with the brain. All right. So otherwise, for a normal person, if you have learned something, we can definitely unlearn it and we can relearn it. Okay, it's not hardwired. It's something we have learned it. And consciously, unconsciously, we have learned it. We can always change that. And so even though it's involuntary, signal learning is involuntary, it's something that we can become aware of it and we can change it. So signal learning mainly leads to behavioral change and not a cognitive change. So sometimes we cannot even explain why we are doing what we are doing. Okay, that's because signal learning does not involve much of cognitive process. It's just something that got paired in our head, right? If you are taking coffee and if you vomit, the brain might associate coffee to vomiting and may want to avoid coffee. But is it logical? It does not, because coffee did not create that vomiting. Okay, it could be something that you ate in the morning that created vomiting, but our brain tends to associate. Okay, so we cannot sometimes explain logically why the person has this irrational fear or this irrational response, but we can change that, right? Just like signal, when you see, we behaviorally, if it is green, we speed up. If it is red, we stop. So similarly, signals, these are stimulus that has an effect on us, right? We react to that. And NLP anchoring technique is very good. Swish is also excellent to bring about shift. So when the stimulus comes, if you can anchor yourself to something, a healthy resource, the whole thing changes. The program, you can change the program, right? And through visualization, we can bring about a shift in our association in our head, if it's an unhealthy association. We can also create positive associations through various visualization techniques, right? We can associate something very positive. Okay, that was the first one. Yes, Anusha. And any questions for the signal learning before I go to this
Yes,
second one?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, the previous slide. The next one, sir. Yes. So I was wondering, OCD, since it's a very deep-rooted one, is that signal learning? Does that come under signal learning, or it is not under signal learning?
Yeah, in some cases, it is just a habit. We cannot probably classify it as OCD, right? You have just learned it something from your mother, or maybe you yourself. It's a stress buster for you to clean up and keep things in order, etc. But when you really look at someone who has been diagnosed by OCD, there are a lot of neurochemical aspects to it, right? So a proper diagnosis and a proper treatment, I would advise for people who are really into OCD. But most of us, we simply call ourselves OCD. It could be just a habit. It could be.
That's really not OCD.
It could be
I
just
knew OCD because it's a disorder. It stops you from functioning normally.
Yeah.
That is, you're saying it's not really signal learning. It is a neurological.
Yeah, in
pathway
most cases, in a lot of cases, there are a neurological bias to it, and I mean a causal factor could be a neurological or neurochemical factors, and in such cases, consulting a doctor would be the best thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the second part is stimulus response learning, but this is different. This is based on reward and punishment. That is just a pairing. This is not what happens during the action. It is what happens after the action. Do you get rewarded or do you get punished? Right? So you can see the carrot and stick approach. And in a lot of organizations and in every society, they have built in stimulus response based on reward and punishment. You do something, you are punished. What is that? You are unlikely to do that again. And if you do something, you are rewarded, you are likely to do it. So right from LKG onwards, right from even before that, our parents, they have built in a lot of reward and punishment. Beta, you do this, I'll give you a chocolate. I'll give you the next, I'll buy you a cycle if you get good marks, etc. So reward and punishment is the next level. Right? So this is called SR learning, but this is voluntary because we want to move forward for rewards and we want to move away from punishment. So the focus is on response that follows a stimulus rather than on learning the association between two events. Anyone can give an example? Reward and punishment?
Giving incentive itself.
Giving incentive, appreciation, bonus, right?
If a person doesn't do the committed figure in sales, then he's taken on the task.
Yeah.
This is the punishment. And if he performs, he gets an incentive.
Yes. Yeah, so every society, every culture, every family has some do's and don'ts, and there is rewards and punishment. And that has an impact on our, over a period of time, it gets into our subconscious mind that these are the things that is good for me, and these are the things bad for me, right?
Putting into the box of being good boy, good girl, kind of.
Yes, good boy, good girl, right from our childhood. So every organization has certain things. In some organization, if you come up with a creative ideas, you are punished. And again, you come up with a creative idea and you are punished. Then after some time, you'll stop coming up with creative ideas, right? So every organization, every environment has some reward and punishment, and this impacts our behavior, right? We kind of inculcate that in our own head, these rewards and punishment. Sometimes these rewards and punishment, we give it to ourselves also. Yes, Manmeet?
So the kids automatically raise their hands when the teacher asks the question, whether or not they know the answer. So like, okay, now I'm going to ask you something. So their hands automatically go up.
Yeah, so I will get appreciation. It is good for me. It will give reward if I raise my hand.
Raise my
Right?
hand.
So you develop that, and it becomes a part of your personality. Even in meetings later on in life, you go to a corporate, you raise your hand, you want to participate, right? But someone who participated and was punished and laughed at and ridiculed for wrong answer will be hesitant in future also. So that person will say participation is punishment, can lead to punishment, whereas the earlier person would say participation leads to rewards. Right? So these attitude towards, I mean, this way of thinking towards rewards and punishment change, it has an impact on our behavior. Yeah, Anusha? Yes, Chandra.
So,
Yeah.
to hear me now? Okay. I was just thinking, performance appraisal per se might not be a signal response, but incentive and bonuses are. I'm just trying to create a fine line between the.
Yeah, so the fine line here, if you want to see, signal association is something that is happening in the process, right? So, there is a stimulus and there is a response, or there is a reaction. There is a reaction. For example, office room, and there is anxiety. Okay, so this is associated. Two things are associated in the mind, right? It does not involve thinking. It is involuntary. Okay, it is automatic or involuntary. Whereas the other one is voluntary, right? So in the second case, it is more in terms of it is less in terms of what is happening. Okay, it's like a student studying because I'll get good marks. So it is less in terms of what is happening and more in terms of what will follow, right? What will happen after the action? Will I get rewarded or will I get punished? So one of the key differentiating factor is the second one is a little voluntary. We are making a voluntary conscious decision to either avoid punishment or to move towards rewards. The other one is just a pairing that happens, right? It's involuntary. And sometimes there could be possibility that both may be involved, right? The signal learning may be involved and stimulus response based on reward and punishment may be involved in a specific case. Yes, Chandrasekharan?
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
actually, yeah, but I just almost got cleared with this example. I mean, with the explanation what you gave just now. But still, when I look at the example of in the meetings, I raise my hand, I get punished or I get appreciated. And then if suppose one or two occasions where I got punished or I've been ridiculed, then I'll not be doing it. So that being the case, that's also like the signal learning. No, that's when I get a little confused. That's also signal learning. Like no, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
And now
So,
I'm voluntary. Yeah. How do we differentiate that signal learning and then this one voluntary or involuntary?
say, for example, a office atmosphere where you are encouraged to share, right? You are in an organization like Google or something where everybody come up with ideas. So your mind knows that you will get reward if you share ideas and you will not be, but somewhere within you, there is a hesitation because in the past you have associated sharing with ridicule and people laughing, etc. So that which is stopping you is a signal learning. And because at the conscious level, you know that this is a reward, but something within you is still stopping you. That subconscious level aspect is the signal learning.
Okay.
That conscious level that this will lead to reward and punishment, right? You logically understand that this will lead to reward or this will lead to punishment is the second part, stimulus response.
Okay.
Right? So we call it operant conditioning. So it's like a cat, you put cat or a rat or something, you put in a cage and there are many levers and there is one lever that lead to opening the cage and food. So the cat will repeat that. If you put the cat in the same cage again and again, the cat will press the lever that leads to food, freedom and food. That is the second one, right? Because the cat is doing that in order to get something. Pressing the lever is not something interesting, right? But in first learning, pressing the lever itself is associated, right? But in the second one, pressing the lever is not something that is exciting. What is exciting is after you press the lever, what happens? You get freedom and response. So in the second case, it's not during the process. It is, if I do this, what will be the effect of that? Right? Yeah. Yes, Rama?
Can stimulus over a period of time, when it becomes an habit, it can become a signal, right?
Yeah,
Because it
it
becomes
can.
involuntary. Yeah.
Yeah, it can.
Hmm.
Yeah. So then it becomes an automatic response. You're not doing consciously for a reward or punishment. It just becomes a
habit.
It becomes a very automatic element, part of it. The second part is when you do certain things for reward or punishment, either set up by the environment or people around you, or you yourself might set up some reward or punishment for that, right? So one of the things that reward and punishment is that generally human beings tend to focus on instant gratification. Okay, our brain is more towards what will I get now? So one of the art of discipline is to train your mind to think a little beyond instant gratification, because instant gratification is a reward. And a lot of people are propelled for that. But to think long term is a trained mind. It's not, doesn't come very naturally to most people. It requires a little bit of training, right? So you have to consciously think a little beyond today or this week, right? You have to think ahead. So that training is something that we give in, we say sometimes consequential thinking, especially long-term consequences. Even emotional intelligence class, art of discipline class, we teach people to think long-term. And NLP has this timeline exercise where you set a goal 3 years from now. By nature, we don't get excited about something which is 3 years ahead. By nature. We are always for instant gratification. Right? If I have to work for a goal 3 years from now, or if I have to go to a theater and have popcorn and movie and enjoy, your mind naturally goes towards enjoy now. Okay, so we have to train, and this one of the way is put yourself in the present moment, in the future. Timeline exercise takes you that. Right? So that you can feel that the reward is so real. So that you're motivated to go after that reward. But otherwise, by nature, human being, for them to get a reward 3 years from now, 5 years from now, is something that doesn't create excitement. We are always excited about short-term rewards or instant gratification. Okay, so this reward and punishment sometimes can make us do a lot of bad things because for instant gratification. But we can train ourselves to go after rewards in the long run, to have vision, to have a foresight.
Manojji, you just stated previous slide, you had just stated that put yourself in the present moment in the future. The next slide after this. Can you just expand on that, please? Next slide after. The next slide where there is one line. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
While explaining this, you had stated, put yourself in the present moment in the future. Can you expand on that, please?
Yeah, so the reward becomes a little more realistic because long-term rewards look so distant. We are not very excited. Say, for example, you want to buy a house, which probably you will buy after 5 years or 10 years. So when it is such a long distance, it doesn't change our behavior. right? Because it's so far away. Whereas having an ice cream which is in the fridge changes our behavior, right? We are excited to go and have that ice cream because that reward is instant gratification. So something which is 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you can transport yourself and be in that house, which is probably will be built maybe 10 years from now. Experience, smell that paint, feel that floor, experience the house. And when you do that visualization, it becomes like a reward. It kind of changes your behavior in the now. I want this house. It's a reward I want to go after. Right? So the goal setting, especially long-term goal setting, sometimes does not excite us because we are slightly tuned towards instant goals. So we have to train ourselves, and some of the visualization techniques helps you do that. Timeline exercise, timeline goal setting is one such tool that helps you to feel the desire to go after a reward, which is years from now. Okay, so we have
So
seen.
keeping the same example in mind, ice cream in the fridge is immediate gratification, while say buying the fridge or the ice cream maker or learning how to make ice cream yourself is the long term. Am I with you on the same page, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the chaining, the third above that is chaining, which is easy to understand. It is a series of stimulus response, right? And you chain them, which is a skill. So it's like chaining means connection of a set of individual stimulus and response. So for example, there is one stimulus response, there's another stimulus response. So for example, like driving, it's a many things are combined together, right? For a skill. Or it's like learning to play piano, right? So there are lots of stimulus response associated with that. So if you are reading the notes in this thing, it's visual stimulus. You read a note, you play a certain music, then you read another note. So what do you say? Notes, right? In piano, if you're playing piano, you use the word notes, right? So if you want to learn a song, so you see a note, and then the response is you play that note, right? Then you see another note, and the response is you play that note. And then all this series of notes, everything you play, and then you learn a song. That is called chaining, right? So driving, playing a piano, most of the skills requires a series of stimulus and response. So when you teach individually. Like for example, when I was taught driving, they just taught me how to brake. Then they just taught me how to accelerate, right? Then they just taught me how to change gears. So it was taught individual stimulus response. And then all of this stimulus response came together to create a skill. Right? So chaining is nothing but bringing various stimulus response together in order to perform a skill. So if you see assertiveness, a lot of these things has many stimulus response. So when we teach as a trainer, we have to break it down. For this, you respond like this. For that, you respond like this. And for this, you respond like this. And all this, when they combine together, and it comes naturally, okay, you have developed assertiveness. Okay, so in skill building, we break it down to various stimulus response, and then we teach, and then we combine everything. Okay, that's chaining. So far, any questions in anyone's mind? So what's the first one? What's the first level?
Signal.
Signal learning. What's the second level?
Stimulus response.
Third level?
Chaining,
Chain.
continuous.
And fourth is verbal association. So the chaining mostly is used at a physical skill, like learning a karate, learning a dance, right? So learning a dance involves different behavior for different part of the song, right? And then you combine together and then it's like a dance. But each step is a stimulus response, right? Stimulus is the song, that particular part of the song, and response is that particular step that you take, right? Dance step that you take. So when we use the word chaining, it is at a physical skill, but there is also the second part, which is verbal association, right? This is a form of chaining in which links are between connected verbal in nature. This is a special kind of chaining with words. When a child learns ABC, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. So what you have chained, all the letters you have chained together. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. We remember, right? So that's chaining. But this chaining is not physical, bodily, like cycling, driving. This is verbal. Right? When Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, January, Feb, March. So we learn these various words when we chain together, we say verbal association. Right? So some of it we have formally learned, some of it we informally learn. So there are lots of words pairs, synonyms, word pair, peanut butter and jelly, cause and effect. Smoking leads to cancer, right? Smoking and cancer get associated. Smoking leads to cancer. Smoking leads to cancer. Rhyming words, categories, dog, cats, idioms, piece of cake, raining cats and dogs. Sequential, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Opposite, hot and cold, day and night, yin and yang. So all this verbal association is another form of learning that becomes part of your personality, right? It also impacts your thinking. Any questions?
So can we associate this with rote learning?
Yeah.
Is it?
Rote learning over a period of time, it becomes a permanent knowledge in you. Then it becomes like ABCD. I learned in.
We put it with the same tone and the.
Yeah, ABC, whatever that we learned, right? Then it becomes a part of our personality, right? We use these words in day-to-day life. Some of it we might use only on certain occasion. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Right? It's an association that we have, but we also have associations which also impacts us. Like, for example, criticism, what comes to your mind? Think of the first thing that comes to your mind, criticism. Anyone share, please? Criticism, what comes to your mind?
You get irritated.
You get irritated. It's wrong. Why is this person so negative? Right? Criticism may be associated with negative. Then I went for this NLP class, NVC class, where people spoke about positive intention. People speak about that criticism, sarcastic comment is an expression of an unmet need. Now, in my mind, because of all this training, criticism, sarcastic comment is associated with expression of an unmet need. I don't see it as negative. Right? So that's a shift that has happened through training that I attended. So if somebody is criticizing for me, what does this person want? Somebody is making a sarcastic comment, oh, this person is hurt. This person is sharing something that has hurted this person in a specific way. Right? So we have these words and we have association which becomes a part of our personality. Right? Earlier, criticism, sarcastic comment means something negative for me, but now it's just a way of expression for me. So there's a shift in the association, verbal association, the meaning that words have, the various associated. So for me, criticism and expression has kind of got associated. If somebody is criticizing, that person is expressing themselves. Right? It got associated through continuous training. Right? So it shifts the way I respond to that.
Manoj, previous slide, each one of those criticism, sarcastic, when you showed the slide, I became instinctively aware that for each one of them, I had a person associated with it. Not necessarily negative or whatever. It just became like, yeah, thing of life. What would you deduct that as?
Yeah, everyone has association. These are general words. These are not some technical words that only a technician would know. These are general.
No, but a person associated for, okay, it's criticism, then it would be this person who would be in my life who would do that more. Sarcastic, oh, this person always does. Divorce, I remembered all my friends who have got divorced. Illness, certain. All of them it was not situational, it was persons associated with it.
Yeah. So that's a way that you have associated, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a way that you have associated that an individual or a series or a number of individual for each of them. Some of us
Sorry to interrupt, Manoj. I have done the same thing, like Anushya ji. No, I am getting every single phase and every single point. So, is that common for us to do that, or is there some specific reason?
Especially people who are a little more people-oriented are likely to do that, right? We might remember things remind us of people, right? If you are people-oriented. Some of us, we may have other words that would come up. Criticism means, so some of you could have thought of your headmaster or something, which is a person. Some of you could have said criticism means parents, or criticism means boss, right? Or some of you could have said criticism. There's a gentleman I met in one of the IT companies, he said criticism means growth. My boss, when she was criticizing me, I was able to correct myself and grow. But the current boss is not criticizing me, so I'm stagnating. That's what he said. Right? So we have different associations. Some of the associations are helpful. Some of the associations are even harmful. Right? We can see in terms of how we think, the words that we use, we can bring some awareness to it. Okay, what are the different associations that we have? Earlier, I used to think problem is bad, but over a period of time, problem means it's a opportunity, right? And so a lot of us, we may have this similar aspects. So certain words, exercise, many of you have negative connotation, some of you have positive connotations, right? So if something is really impacting you in a negative way, you can change these associations, right? So that's the fourth level. And in a training program, what we do? Yes, in a training program, what we do?
Verbal association.
We change the verbal association that is existing in the mind of the participants, and we create a healthier association. Failure is a stepping stone for success. So a person may walk in with failure, oh God, it's so bad, etc. And then he might go back after the training program. Failure is a stepping stone for success. Right? So these verbal associations, we change in a way that is more helpful in a training program. Right? So that is the fourth level. So up to fourth level is more focused at behavioral level, but from fifth onwards, it's more at a thinking level. Yeah, are you all here? Yes?
Yeah. Yes, sir, very much.
Yeah, so these are in psychology, these are some of the changes. When you change your verbal association, you change your personality. When you change your stimulus response, you change your personality, right? So when you chain various stimulus response, you develop a skill. Okay, so this is what creates our personality. What is discrimination learning? It's basically our ability to discriminate between two stimuli, right? The example that I gave is lady's finger. Like some of you who have not purchasing vegetables may not be able to do that. But based on the color, firmness, and texture, you know which ones are fresh and good ones and which ones are bad. That ability to discriminate is a learning. Right? Suppose you don't know how to discriminate which are the good lady's finger and bad lady's finger, but you go with somebody and that person tells you this is how to discriminate. That's a learning. That is called discrimination learning. Anyone can give another example?
So like when you look at some plants, so you can discriminate which are the poisonous ones, non-poisonous ones.
Yeah. I have a friend who can discriminate between a poisonous snake and a non-poisonous, right?
Even by looking at the keys, we can say which will fit the lock.
Absolutely.
Training the children in good touch and bad touch.
Yeah. So this is a higher level skill. Experts, they are able to differentiate. Like an experienced doctor can say, when you say stomach pain, what kind of stomach pain? Because stomach pain can come from various factors. But an expert is able to discriminate that and do a proper diagnosis, right? So here I have given an example of a quality control. There are products that are being made, and a person is able to discriminate which matches the quality standards. I met a gentleman in Bombay who was in the leather business, and he can touch the leather and know the quality of that leather just by touching the leather. He can keep his eyes closed and just touch the leather and say, is the quality good or bad? Right? So this ability to discriminate is what makes you an expert, is what makes you someone who is knowledgeable. And we bring this ability in our training programs, right? So if you're taking, say, for example, if you're taking a time management workshop, we say, what is the difference and similarity between effectiveness and efficiency? Can anyone explain what is effectiveness and efficiency, how they are different?
Maybe if I can try it out.
Yeah.
Efficiency is about doing things right, and effectiveness is doing the right things.
Yeah. So that explanation was discriminating between two concepts, right? So it's called discrimination learning, right? You are able to say this is this and this is different, right? So if you are recruiting, you should be able to discriminate between candidates who are like good candidates and candidates who don't fit in. Okay. So our ability to discriminate is a higher level. It involves a lot of cognitive thinking, understanding, and ability to distinguish. Sometimes it's physical things that we discriminate. Sometimes it's a higher aspects that we discriminate. So whoever is an expert, the person is an expert because of their ability. Even someone who is an expert in music can distinguish between good music and bad music, but a person who is probably doesn't know may not be able to make that finer distinction. Yes, Manmeet.
So like you'd given the example of the doctor. So in effectiveness, it would be that the number of diagnoses he's done. Efficiency would be like in how many fewer tests he could get the diagnosis done. That would be efficiency.
Yeah.
Manoj, is it not, sorry, for my own understanding, I'm asking, is it not the alternative, Manoj, is efficiency is like, doing the number of things more, but effectiveness is doing that analysis with a lesser interventions.
Yeah.
I want clarity. That's the reason I'm asking.
Yeah. So effectiveness is about goal attainment. It's mostly at the outcome level, right? Effectiveness is, of course, doing the right things. And it's more at the outcome level. Efficiency is utilizing your resources, time. So if I'm wasting a lot of time, I'm not efficient. I'm doing the right thing. I'm probably studying the right thing, but I'm wasting a lot of time daydreaming, distraction. Or if I'm spending
utilization of resources.
Yeah. So when you optimum utilization of time, money, and resources is efficiency. So if a person is wasting a lot of money or time, same thing can be done with less money. That is efficiency, right? Effectiveness.
Can we say it as efficiency is the skill and effectiveness is the action with how you do it?
Yeah. Efficiency is more about how you do it. Dr. Stephen Covey gave an example. Effectiveness is like you are climbing a ladder, but if the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, you're missing on effectiveness, right? You're doing the wrong thing. You climb the ladder is efficiency. Okay. So when we discuss this in a class, we are allowing people to discriminate, right? So that is definitely need to be built into any training program. discriminative learning. Whichever concept you teach, you ask the student, what is the similarity between efficiency and effectiveness? What is the difference between, so what is the difference between sympathy and empathy? So these are questions that that makes a person to discriminate, which is very important for any training program. And here in the diagram that you see, this is in the emotional intelligence class, because people cannot distinguish between various emotions. Okay, so what is the difference between annoyance and anger, anger and rage? What is the difference between disgust and boredom? Can you discriminate when you feel disgusted or when you are pensive, right? Or when you are, what is the difference between anticipation and amazement? Right? So this helps us to really understand and label the various emotions. So this is something that when we do this, we are teaching them discrimination learning. Distinguish this emotion from the other emotion. Okay, so any trainer needs to understand that discrimination learning speeds up learning. Any questions on discrimination learning? Yes, Manmeet and Giri.
Pardon?
Yes. Giri?
Yes, sir. The discrimination learning, when we are recruiting, we can see the people of skill and knowledge, but we miss the attitude.
Yeah.
Because without recruiting the attitude of the people, the entire organization become failure. So that the effectiveness and efficiency has to be 80% attitude and 20% skill knowledge. We can give skill and knowledge. We can't teach them attitude.
Yeah.
So, and attending so many trainings, which is necessary for me. So, like that, the discrimination has to be done. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. The discrimination, it is application of intelligence. It's application of our cognition, right? And from there, even higher is the concept learning. Concept learning is it can be at a physical level or it can be completely at an abstraction level, right? So we create categories, we create groups, we create an idea, and people with very low intelligence, like people we say sometimes, earlier we used to call it retarded, right? People who mentally retarded people, but nowadays we use mentally challenged. And those people cannot think in abstraction. Even children, small children like 1 year old, etc., cannot understand words like justice, freedom, etc., which are concepts. They understand physical stuff. Water bottle, they understand, right? It's a thing. It's not a concept, right? But what is justice? What is freedom? They are all concepts. They don't exist as a physical thing, right? So concept learning is even higher, and theories and concept is what we teach in training programs because it influences our behavior, right? So concept learning describes ability to classify and link together. It's a crow. So classification is also concepts. Sorry, I came back to, let me go to the whiteboard. So for example, crow is a physical thing. Crow. It's something that exists.
Yeah.
Right? It has a physical form. And pigeon?
Yes.
It has a physical form. Right? So various of these things, what we combine them, if we combine them into a group, what group can we call?
Birds.
Birds. So birds is a concept.
Okay.
Like mammals is a concept. Right? So when we put the birds, when we put mammal, right? Human being is a mammal. Anything that gives birth to a baby is a mammal. Right? Birds, mammal, animal kingdom, plant kingdom. Right? So when we classify, when we group things, we are creating a concept. A concept is something that does not exist by itself, but denotes to something like a group of things. So this is at a physical form. So sometimes we create this classification, right? And sometimes, like for example, friendship is a concept, but a specific friend is a physical thing, right? So if I
Yeah.
say Shiv Subramaniam is my friend, okay, Shiv Subramaniam exists, but the word friendship is a concept. It does not exist as a physical form. Okay, so what is a square?
Shape.
Yeah, so the lines are there, but when these lines comes together in a specific way, we say square. So square is a concept, right?
But it is physical, no? You can see that.
Lines exist, the lines exist physically, but we say that when the lines are in this specific way, it is rectangle. When the lines are in this other way, it is a square.
Oh, okay.
Right? And when the lines are, I mean, when it is a round one without angles, it is a circle. So within concept, there are various things. In some concept, there are certain rules, and I mean, there are certain conditions, and all the conditions has to be met. In this case, square, there are some conditions. All the conditions have to be met. Yes, Anusha, Dayashri?
It means like anything in which comes in a group, or does that comes under concept learning, Manoj? Like,
Yeah, group like male. Male is a male, female, right?
okay.
So human beings. So we have given various names to various groups, and Asia.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So couple is physical, while marriage is a concept.
Yeah. So a concept is something which is denotes to a specific classification, but it doesn't exist by itself.
For
Right?
that matter, even couple also, no?
Yeah.
Couple is also not a physical thing.
So you can say even couple.
Two people make a couple.
So there are some conditions for couples. So what exists is, say, for example, here one person exists who is a man, and another person exists who is a female. Those are physical forms. But we bring together and we say couple, right?
So it's a concept.
Couple, but it has some conditions. Condition is that they like each other, or there are some conditions. If you meet those, just because two people are standing together, we don't call them couple, right? What are the conditions?
They must know each other.
Okay, they need to know each other.
They are in a relationship.
They are in a
living with each other.
They are in a relationship, etc., etc., etc. If these conditions match, they are a couple, and it's a concept. But what exists is the physical form is a man and a woman.
Manoj, a good fight.
Couple, so couple
Good fight
is a
also good couple.
concept or is it a physical thing?
Yeah,
Because I thought couple is a physical thing and marriage is a concept.
Yeah. So, for example, a drawing room is a concept, right? A drawing room is a concept, but it has all these elements that you put together. It's a concept. Okay.
One last question, sir. Will coding be a concept? Because like when people code.
Yeah. If it's a verb like walking, then it's not a concept. And maybe coding, if it's a verb like, say, walking, laughing, etc., then maybe it denotes a particular action.
No, what I'm talking about coding in terms of the program, like people code to make programs, right? That kind of coding software.
Yeah, a program could be a concept.
Program. Okay. While coding could be a physical thing too.
Yeah, it could be a physical action. It could denote to a physical action also.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So sometimes what happens is we have certain conditions that makes we have certain conditions. For example, SUV car, is it a concept or it's a car? SUV.
Concept. SUV is a concept.
Concept.
Right, it's a concept. Can you give us some specific cars which are SUV?
Fortuner.
Creta.
Fortuner, Creta.
Kia
Right?
Seltos.
Yeah. But SUV is a concept, right? What are the conditions for an SUV to be an SUV?
Four-wheel driven.
Okay. I'm just putting four-wheel drive capability.
It is not a sedan.
It is.
It is not a sedan. It has more height. What do you call?
Okay.
High raised.
Yeah. So we are not experts. So I just put some conditions, right? So or I'll just put
not a sedan.
X, Y, Z. There are some conditions. So if a car matches those conditions, we call it an SUV. And sedan is another concept, right? Sedan is another concept. It has certain conditions that if you meet these conditions, X, Y, Z, then we call it a sedan, right? So what you see here is that this is a concept, but Fortuner exists, Creta exists, but SUV is a concept, right? So in some cases, it has some 3-4 conditions. All the conditions has to match. In some cases, 1 or 2 conditions matches itself. We call it, okay, this is fine, right? So if you want to, so I have given some examples here. In the first case, all the conditions has to match like a square. There are some 2-3 conditions. All the condition has to match. In this case, only one condition. For example, if there's a discount either for senior citizen or for student, right? So if you match one of those conditions, we say he has matched that. So in some conditions,
Manoj, sorry, is Aadhaar card. So is it complete condition or some condition? How is that?
yes, the Aadhaar card is something that is physical, but identity card by itself, ID card, right? So that could be a concept. Within that, there are different kinds of cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a group of things that we give a name to it. That's a concept.
The previous slide for 1 second, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
One quick question. Even day and night is a concept, right? Just thinking.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking whether it's something that physically exists.
Okay.
Right? If it physically exists, or is it just a
convention that we have made?
Yeah, I would say summer. Summer is a concept. Winter is a concept, right? Because it has a lot of properties, and if these properties are satisfied, we say it is summer. And winter, those are concepts.
Yes.
Day and night will come under physical.
Yeah, so probably it does exist. Day and
yeah.
night, I'm not. I have my reservation to call it a concept. At a finer level, every word is a pointer to a physical thing. So it's kind of a concept. But let's say concept is something like a group of things we give a name, right? So in some cases, concepts are relational. Like, for example, this is a big car and a small car. It is comparative, right? So especially when we use the word rich, poor, etc., it is comparative. There may not be any absolute standard.
So maybe day and night, like day has a condition that the sun rises, you can see everything. So those are physical things. Maybe the day is a concept, night, the sun sets, and then the darkness. Those are the conditions. Maybe day and night are also like concepts.
Yeah. So concept as such is denotes to various stuff. Right? Like animal kingdom, it's a concept. Animal kingdom is a concept, but within that there are many things. Day and night probably is something that happens. It's something that physically happens. Sometimes concepts are concrete. Sometimes the concepts are completely abstract, like justice, freedom. Like bicycle, we give a name. Um, so there are concrete things. Sometimes we give name to those things, like for example, animal kingdom or SUV, etc. And sometimes there are completely abstract stuffs that like freedom, etc., which is completely a concept, right? So that's a little bit of concept, but in training programs, what we teach is leadership concepts. We teach various team building concepts. So concept is the core of a training program, right? So these are ideas that drives a training program. So what are the concepts you're covering is something that a HR person will definitely ask. And we also hold a lot of various concepts in our head, right? Some of them are healthy, some of them may not be healthy. Okay, the second last, rule learning. These are do's and don'ts that all of us, we have learned. And we have various rules and do's and don'ts. In Islam, we say this is halal and this is haram, right? Do's and don'ts. And so we create a lot of rules. Don't speak to a stranger. Don't do this, don't do that. Some of them are healthy, some of them are unhealthy. Even this, we want to challenge in a training program. Right? We want to create rules that are healthy, that are empowering, that are beneficial, that are growth oriented. Right? So in rules say, if this happens, you do this. Right? In assertiveness, we say, if somebody makes this kind of a comment, you respond this way. Okay, so this is something that helps you to prepare in future and say that, because rules is not just about present and past, rules is also about how to handle in future. So this is very useful. Rules helps you to take quick action, and you assess the situation and say, I can apply this rule to move forward. Right? Rule learning applies. Of course, company itself, organization itself will have certain rules, but we can set rules that are empowering, that are growth oriented, that helps us to move forward in life. So we have traffic rules, we have grammar rules, we have social rules, we have mathematical rules. And you can also become aware of what are your do's and don'ts. In a social situation, what are your do's and don'ts? In a problem solving, what are your do's and don'ts? In goal setting, what are your do's and don'ts? And see if anything is unhealthy, you can change that. Okay, so you are driven by certain rules and principles which are healthy and empowering. And some of these rules can be shared in the class. Okay, the last one is problem solving. This is the highest as far as Robert Gagne has said. So
You're still learning the seventh Manoj, and this is the eighth?
Yeah, this is the, sorry, this is the 8th. I'll change it right away. There are 8 levels. Thanks for pointing that out.
No problem. Thank you.
8th is the last level. So this is where you develop a solution mindset. You see things, problem could be in marriage, problem could be in business, problem could be dealing with a customer, right? So it's the highest level where you bring all these skills into the concepts, everything into picture in order to solve a problem, right? You demand creative thinking, creativity, and deep understanding. So problem solving refers to cognitive process of identifying, analyzing, resolving an issue or a challenge. And Japan in the 80s and 70s, they became so successful because their whole idea was problem solving, problem solving, problem solving. What are the problems customers are facing? What are the problems employees are facing? What are the problems, these technical problems? They will bring up the problems, they will solve those problems. Okay, so in life, instead of getting demotivated by problems, you go after problems and solve it. How do you solve it? Probably you can try different solution and see which one will solve, or you can set a goal and work backwards, or you can break it down and solve a problem. Brainstorm, root cause analysis, you can collaborate with others. But this is a skill that is at a leadership level. If a company has some issues in the market, in the product, in the quality, see it as a problem and solve it. Relationship issue, financial issue, customer preferences are changing. You have to complete a project, very less time, very less resources. These are all problems. All innovations are problem solving. Okay. So this Robert Gagne says is at the highest level. So when you conduct a training program, you can see my participants, what problem they are facing and how my program can help them solve those problems. That's the Robert Gagne's model, from signal learning all the way to problem solving. And the top ones requires a lot of thinking. The bottom ones are more at the subconscious level. So learning is a permanent shift. It's a relatively permanent change in behavior, knowledge, and skills. And change can happen at these 8 levels. Bring in a lot of presence, identify in these 8, how do you solve problems? What are the verbal association? How do you discriminate, right? Whom you want to be a friend, whom you don't, no discrimination learnings. Stimulus response. In this stimulus, how do you respond? Bring in a lot of presence, bring in a lot of awareness, and progress begets progress. When you make small changes, okay, I can change this signal learning, or I can change this, the way I respond, or these are the concepts which are quite unhealthy that I'm holding in my head. I can change some of these concepts, right? I can become better at problem solving in life and evolve to your finest self. Because life is nothing but becoming more and more capable, wiser, and becoming a better human being, a better person. And all these 8 different levels, you can bring changes so that you continue to grow and continue to progress. So that's the Robert Gagne's hierarchy of learning.
Thank you.